Start.
Good morning, students. Today we are going to do the second part of our constitution, that is the salient features of our constitution. You know that constitution was prepared for the guidelines of a country. When a country is to be governed, there are certain rules and regulations which has to be followed. Then only we are able to govern a country properly. Like in our house, we follow certain rules and regulations, like what time you should, by evening, what time you should reach home, how guests should be entertained. That's different kinds of rules. In the same way, a country where there are two types of government, that is a state government and a union government. So the link of the state government and the union government for a better working of the country, the constitution was formed. So the main features, the fundamental rights we have done, fundamental duties we have done. So the second part is the directive principles. The directive principles of state policy is included in part 4 of the constitution. These principles are the guidelines which a government, both central and state, should keep in mind while framing the laws. Whenever government is making a law, it should always keep in mind the directive principles laid by the makers of our constitutions, so that they can make laws which is for the betterment of the people, for the success of the country, and for the development of the country. So guidelines, the directive principles are just a guidelines for a government to rule the country. Sometimes these directive principles act as a yardstick to judge the performance of the government by the citizen. Suppose the government is working properly or not, how will you know? Because the directive principles helps you that these are the freedom which the government should do, these are the work which a government should do. So in 5 years when we elect a government, we see that the elected government in the 5 year has been able to perform those work or not. If the government has worked properly, next election we re-elect them. But if the government has not performed properly, we give the vote to another government. Like in our country, previously there was a coalition government, then before that was a Congress government, and today from last 10 years, we are having BJP government. So these are the guidelines to be followed by the government to govern the country. It helps the citizen to decide whether to re-elect the present government or not. So in 2022 or 21, when the 2019 now, 2023-24, we will elect the new government, and that time we will see that this BJP government which we have elected in 2019 is able 2024 where are able to re-elect or not. If it fulfills the demand of the citizens, we re-elect. If they don't fulfill the demands of the citizens, we don't re-elect. And it is not justiciable by law. Like in fundamental rights, we did that if it is justiciable by law, we go to the court. If one or any of your fundamental rights are not given to you. For example, a girl wants to study and she doesn't want to get married. So if the parents forcefully get her married, she can go to the court against her parents. But if the government is not able to give you freedom, give you employment, give you facility, you can't go to a court to force the government to do such things. Sometimes the situations are that the government will not be able to give you what is written in the directive principles. So that is why directive principles are not justiciable by law. Next part is directive principles are classified into 5 categories. There is a list of vast directive principles. So how can we classify it? Because until unless we classify, we will not be able to promote those directive principles in our constitution. For example, in nursery class, you studied wild animals, pet animals, but when you grew up, you studied herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous. Then when you started studying in 9 and 10 microbes and microorganisms, you have studied. In the same way, you classify so that it becomes easy for you to understand. In the same way, the directive principles has been classified so that they can be properly worked out and put in the laws for the success of the country. So the first is the economic principles. Economic principles means all the people should get equal pay, equal work. There should not be no discrimination should be then on the principles of money. So the all related to money is termed as economic principles. Next is principles for protection of environment and wildlife. Suppose nowadays we see that many animals have become extinct. and they are becoming extinct. Why? Because we are using those animals for our benefit. Like the skin of a lion or a tiger is sold for crores of rupees. The teeth or the tusk of an elephant is sold for the people's benefit. So what do? The government has applied certain rules and regulations that if you kill any animal, you will be punished. If you disturb the environment of the jungle, you will be punished. You cannot cut trees without the permission of the government, because environment has to be protected for future generation. Due to environment deforestation, we are having global warming, pollution, lot of problem is there. So to protect that, we have to make certain rules and regulations. Next is Gandhian principles. Gandhiji wanted certain development in our country. Like he said that 70% of India's population is living in villages. If they will not improve, the country will not improve. That is why he wanted cottage industry to be promoted, panchayati raj system should be established, many other principles which will help the lower section of the society, special reservations for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. So these principles which are on the ideas of Gandhiji is laid in the directive principles. Principle related to law, justice and administration. Many times your laws and the laws of our country change. Why? Because the from 20th century we came to 21st century. Now technology was not there in 18th and 19th century, but 21st century we are in a technological way. So laws has to be made for the technology. Today you are watching that you are having practical classes in schools, but now without going schools you are having online classes. So laws has to be made because students are disturbing teachers in the online classes, due to which teachers are not able to teach. If I will not punish those children, how will I bring discipline among the students? So justice is there, many people are deprived of the justice. Then for the better governance of the country, the ministers need certain privileges which has to be given. So these are the principles related to law, justice and administration. Next is the principles of international peace and security. You can see India had a very good relations with Bhutan, but now Nepal, sorry, India had a very good relation with Nepal. Now Nepal has got a correlation with China. So it is creating problem for India. So at that time, we have to have an international peace treaties with different countries. So when India and many Asian countries have joined hands with the European countries and they are getting aloof themselves from China, so what will happen? If we are united, there will not be third world war. But if the third world war takes place, what will happen? No country will be alive, because today atomic bomb is with all the countries. If one uses it, other will use it. So to maintain international peace and security, certain principles have to be followed. So these are the 5 categories of directive principles. Next is the economic principle. Adequate means of livelihood for all children. Now, this is a major responsibility of the government. Now, this government has proved itself in providing such things. You have seen in the situation of lockdown in COVID-19, the government tried its best to see that the poor people do not starve to hunger. That is why rice was freely distributed, milk was distributed, pulses were distributed, potatoes were distributed. 500 rupees per bank account went to the poor people. Why? So that they can live and they cannot die with hunger. So this, the government has proved it economic policy. Next is equal distribution of wealth. More income, more tax, less income, less tax. This suits this equitable distribution of wealth. So the government makes policies now and then to improve the condition of the people. Next, right to work. Today, you are a student, you want to become a businessman, you can become. You want to do a service under the government, you can do. You want to do administrative work in the government, you can do. You don't want to do business, you want to just start an organization, you can do. So this right the government has given. You want to become a scientist, you can become. You want to become a doctor, you can become. Nobody can stop you. So this the government has given education and public assistance in case of unemployment. So when you are unemployed due to no education, due to no money to start a business, at that time the government helps you to give you education, that is RTE, right to education. In that BPL classes, many people get free educations, bank gives loan at a very low rate of interest so that the poor people can start small business and do on their living. Provisions for human conditions to work. Now today, whenever you are going for an employment in any place, human treatment means you have to get proper environment, you have to get safety kits, the treatment, each and every work has to be condition has to be given so that the worker can do their work in a proper way. Today, suppose you're going to school to study and there is only one fan and 50 students. Will you like to go to school? No, because you feel so warm, you feel so hot that you don't want to study. So there are proper light facility in the school, there are proper fan facility so that the children can study and the teacher can teach. Next is the Gandhian principles. Gandhiji wanted village panchayat, that I have told you, the three-tier village panchayat, prohibition of liquor and harmful drugs. Now you will say, teacher, the liquor is being sold, the drugs are being sold. What to do? We Indians can't live without liquor. Anyway, Gandhiji said that no liquor has to be manufactured or sold, drugs should be banned, but still drugs are used. Now these drugs sometimes are used for the treatment of diseases, so we have to use it. Promotion of cottage industry like making of agarbatti, making of baskets, making of pickles. These are the industries where we need less amount of money, and you can home people or family members or a society can get together and produce goods. Prevention of slaughter of cow and milk animals means those animals which give us milk, we should not, means weaker section of the society should get special reservation so that those people who are deprived of their rights, the Shudras, they get special provision so that they can improve themselves. Next is principles related to law, justice and administration. Uniform civil code. Code means same law for everybody. Nobody will deploy. Let's suppose a son of a minister kills a person and a son of a farmer kills a person. Both should be given the same punishment. He should not be deprived of his right because he is the son of a farmer, and he should not be given privilege because he is the son of a minister. But sometimes we see that it happens and we feel very angry. But the government says that law is same for everybody. Separation of judiciary from executive, that we have. Judiciary is separated from executive, so the executive makes programs and judiciary judge whether the programs are for the betterment of the people or not. Security of equal justice and free legal aid to the needy. Needy people get equal justice. And like um, suppose I'm a poor person and I have a case is on me and I don't have money to pay to an advocate. At that time, the government will give me a free advocate. Means the government will pay the salary and the advocate will fight justice for me. That is called equal justice and free legal aid to the needy. Next is principles for international peace and security. Promotion of peace and security, though we India and China are having problem, but not a single nation in the world wants us to fight. They see, you can say the American president wants us to do some peaceful treaty so that this war does not take place. Maintenance of just and honorable relations between nations. Now Nepal will have a problem. I don't know what we Indians will do, what our ministers will, because Nepal is not helping us and they are creating trouble for India. But then also we would like to have a just and good relations with other nations. Setting international disputes by arbitrations. If there is any international disputes, both the country can sit together and solve their problem by compromise. Fostering respect for international laws and treaties. UNO, International Court of Justice, is run by UNO. We should respect international laws and treaties so that no country is at a fault and there is no disrespect created between the countries. Next is principle for promoting of environment and wildlife. Protection and improvement of environment and safeguard the forest life, that you know very well. If you kill a wild animal, you can go to jail. If you kill a tree, if you cut a tree without the permission of the government, your home tree, that's a different thing. Trees means which is the government's property. Then you might be put behind the bars or you may be heavily taxed. Protection of monuments and objects of historical interest like Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar, all these are of historical interest. Suppose thousands of people visit Taj Mahal. If everybody put their sign on the wall of the Taj Mahal, how beautiful the Taj Mahal will look, you can imagine it. So the government had made rules for the protection of monuments and objects of historical interest. Provision to protect the places of national interest like Delhi, hill stations, many other Mughal gardens. The government has done certain provisions to protect them so that we don't destroy our national property. That is our main. We may live, we may die, but the nation goes on. So it's our responsibility to protect our national property. Next is a welfare state. What is a welfare state? A state is declared to be a welfare when all the resources are utilized efficiently for the happiness of the people. Like suppose, when can your family be welfare? When each and every person in the family develop whatever you have, you share among yourself and live happily. In the same way, whatever wealth we are having in our country is used for the development and betterment of the people. It ensures employment to all the citizens and keep the dignity of the individual. Government thinks that we should give employment. This is the main principles of directive. But as the population rate growing is much higher than the work rate, that is why many people are unemployed. And due to the COVID-19, many industries have closed. So many people are living unemployed, are not getting employment, but the government is trying its best to create employment, so that is why Manrega has been started. Next, it ensures medical facilities to the sick and the old age and special privileges like food, clothes, and shelter to the poor. This you have seen that the government is reliable and the government is doing their work properly. But then also there are certain places where the government can't reach. So the government has pleaded the organizations of our community to help those poor people. But the government is doing work for the betterment of the sick, old age, and the poor people. When the above mentioned aims are fulfilled, then another country is said to be a welfare country. So all these things, a country to be a welfare state, all these things have been fulfilled. But still there is unemployment in the country. Still there are people who don't get treatment. Still there are poor people who live without food. So the constitution was made to make India a welfare state. But after 75 years of independence, still we are not unfair welfare state. But still, you are the growing citizens, you are the future generations. One of you may become ministers or government officials. So it's the duty of not only the government but each and every citizen to make India a welfare state. So this is all about the salient features of the constitution in the second part. So all of you go through it and learn it properly. Thank you.